Well, hey there. Appreciate you joining us here today at CVC Coaching. What I've got today is a special podcast going out with a really great guy, been involved in the industry, and he's got a lot of other business interests. Got a lot of background, came in the industry, actually worked for the government, military operations, special ops, a lot of things, probably taught him a lot of discipline that helps him in business today. He's the president owner of National Chimney. He has Natural Light Energy Systems, Kennedy Skylights, and he also is part owner in a CrossFit gym and very wide business interest. I've known the guy a couple years, and one of the things I've noticed about him is he can make decisions. I mean, you can come to him and ask him a question, and guess what? He comes up with an answer. It's not a matter of, hey, I need to think about it for 6 months or a year or forever. He makes a decision. He's the prime guy that I see that is a ready, aim, and fire guy. So today I'd like to welcome, joining me is Darin from National Chimney Supply, Chimney Manufacturing, and all these other areas of expertise he brings to us. So Darin, I want to welcome you to join us with us today.
Well, thank you, Jerry. I'm honored that you got to ask me to come join you, and I'm looking forward to our conversation today.
Hey, I agree, and I think it's going to be some valuable time for everybody. So, Darin, the way we're going to do this is I'm going to ask you a couple questions, and what I'm looking for is your insight. I know from your involvement with a lot of people that you help a lot of people in this industry and give them some really great business advice. So one of the things I'd like to ask you is, in your experience, who are some of the leaders in business, not necessarily in this industry, but overall? I know myself, I admire certain people that have, some of them are dead and gone today, but they really make an impact on business. So who's some of these people that you look at as role models to be a great business leader?
Well, let me see, Jerry. I guess my first role model would be my mom and dad, but obviously that wouldn't be a role model that other people could look up to because they're not out there, giving seminars like you are or talking to clients or customers. But I learned a lot from them growing up, things to do and things not to do. I came from a grounded home where dinner was at 5 o'clock, and you showed up, you ate dinner, you did your homework, and we had a lot of good times and played with our friends. But the fact was, it was a pretty good upbringing, which taught me a lot of discipline, and I think it molded me into the person I am today. But as an actual business leader, I've always been a big fan of Richard Branson. I don't know if you know who he is, but he's the guy that owns Virgin Group. He's a billionaire, and the main reason why I like him, obviously this is completely out of our industry. But the main reason I like him is because this guy's a thinking outside of the box guy. The Virgin Group owns, I think, like 400 companies now, and it's from space travel to record labels, airplanes. I mean, this guy's got a portfolio that's just amazing. And if people on a daily basis could think about, just thinking outside of the box, how can I make myself better as a person or my business better? Instead of always trying to go down the same road everyone else is going down, I think people would change their philosophy in their business and in their personal life as well. So I think my answer to you would be Richard Branson.
And that's great because, like you said, the neat thing about him is this guy is already looking at space travel for consumers. I mean, you talk about thinking outside the box. That's got to be pretty unreal. It's probably like people thought when the Wright brothers went down to Kitty Hawk trying to fly a plane.
Yeah, you're 100% right, and it's interesting when you bring up the space travel. Everyone was fighting him against it, and it was his passion. You do what you want to do because you like what you do, and he thought, I've got some money, I want to put this together, I'm going to get some investors, and and he's been working on it for a while, and he never gave up on it, even though he had hurdle after hurdle and roadblocks. But when the roadblocks would come up, he'd just plow right through them.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, so I think that, when you put that into your everyday life in whatever business you're doing, whether you're sweeping chimneys or selling wood stoves or, you're out there pushing something, you're going to hit these hurdles. So you've got to be able to overcome and adapt them.
Yep. I often tell a lot of people I feel like I'm the biggest failure that ever came out of the chimney sweep industry and the hearth industry because of all the bad things. But, this gentleman's a classic case of one of the things I hear Mark Stoner tell people. And Mark's a really good motivator. And what he tells them, you got to learn how to fail forward. And that's a classic case of how to fail forward. And that's just great. Well, listen, you're involved in a lot of different businesses. I mean, people know you from National Chimney in our industry and somewhat about the skylights, but you are the true entrepreneur. And like I said, I know from my own discussions with you, you can make a decision. It's like, hey, this is something we need to go into, or, that's a great business, but it doesn't fit my model. It doesn't fit it. So let me ask you this. When you look at owning, operating, running a business, is the old adage true that business is business? Is that a true statement, or would you differ with that opinion?
Business is business, but you have to keep it in the right reality of what you're talking about within business. I think if you're selling a product, it can be a widget. It doesn't matter. You've got to have the right channel to sell the product. Or if you're doing a service, you've got to make sure that business fits your model. And when you are looking at other businesses, you got to look at what their company culture is, and is it part of what you want to bring into yours, or are you going to be able to mold what you want to do to change it to be what you want? So to be able to make a decision if this is the right company for you to purchase, you have to do your homework. I definitely make decisions pretty quick, but I also have a great team that's behind me that allows me to make these decisions.
Well, one of my favorite TV shows, Darin, is Shark Tank. I don't know if you ever watch it, but actually from knowing you and talking with you, I think you'd probably make a pretty good person to sit up there at Shark Tank, to be honest with you. What do you think?
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that. Actually, I love watching Shark Tank with my wife. And as you know, Marty, my business partner in Natural Light and National Chimney, he's a phenomenal mentor to me over the years, where he's allowed me to make decisions that they might not have been the right decisions at the time, but you learn from those mistakes. And, when you look at these guys on Shark Tank, I'm sure there's some business deals that they've done that after the deal was done and they really did their homework on the company and they realized, this isn't the best fit for me. I'm probably not going to go into, Kleenex manufacturing or tissue manufacturing because, I'm not in the paper industry. However, if, the opportunity was there and it was the right deal, next, I'm in this business, and then down the road I realized, that might not have been the best decision-making that I'd made,
Yeah, and it is. And like I said, I love to watch it. And another one of mine I love is Bar Rescue, because it's kind of like that's where I look at myself. It's like sometimes I feel like, hey, that's what I do when I go look at companies. It's like, hey, I get to tell them, hey, all these things are wrong and fix it. And, the only difference is on Bar Rescue, they pay for the upfit. I got to get my clients to make their own decisions, and they got to pay for their upgrades. But it's kind of, watching these various business TV shows, I think, is a great training for business owners.
I agree. I think that, you got to put it in the right spectrum of what you're trying to get out of it. I don't think everyone should watch the Shark Tank and think you're going to be Mark Cuban, because, I'm not saying you can't dream to be as, successful and, own a sports team, but, that's going to take a little time. It's interesting when you watch some of these deals these guys make. Some of them are $50,000 to $100,000 deals, and some of them are $1 million deals. And, it depends on what the company that they're looking at and what kind of value they can bring to the company, or is it just strictly an investment for monetary reasons? Are they just trying to get an ROI on their dollars, and, are they trying to double or triple their money, or do they want to bring in, their whole management team and say, you know what, I really like this idea because I'm into fitness, so I really want to invest into, the wakeboard idea or whatever these ideas are that these guys come up. So, I think the opportunity to invest into another company, if you're in the right place at the right time, that's when people should take advantage of it.
Yeah, it is. It's like a portfolio. What I really love on Shark Tank is to watch the sharks go fighting over a business and how these guys create alliances. That's like two of them will go together and throw another one in the river. And, I mean, it's the real world Shark Tank, man. I just love that stuff. So, anyway, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, I'm sorry, Jerry. I was just going to say one more thing about Shark Tank. There's an interesting episode. it's a behind the scenes with the Shark Tank. I don't know if you've seen that, but where they go over, what we see on that 30-minute episode or an hour episode, it is just a portion of it. Those guys that are in there negotiating sometimes are in there 5-6 hours, going back and forth. And a lot of times it's the Sharks arguing with each other because, it's real money. They're playing with real money, and with real money is real life. So
Yep.
It's interesting.
It really, really is. So, I think we both suggested that's great business training. Like I said, you can't emulate Mark Cuban. You're probably not going to own a sports team, which realistically would hold no interest for me anyway. So, another thing you've done that really impressed me was, and I know you've had an impact in doing this, is join an industry mix group. And like I said, I have clients in that mix group. And I know you and I have even worked jointly with one of them about getting an operations manager on staff. You and I had me and you and the client, we actually had a joint conference call one day. But what is this, by being in the mix group, what have you learned about the challenges that I'm going to say your customers have in business? Has this opened your eyes to their challenges?
Well, it's interesting. First of all, I need to thank the mixed group for allowing me in because it's an application process. So, I was asked by one individual to come into the mixed group, and then, I met with them over a actual mixed meeting, and then I got voted in, which, that I was honored by that because, these are guys that are buying my product or maybe even buying a competitor's product who might think that I'm not going to bring any value, but they sat there and as a group thought, you know what, we're going to let this guy come in here because maybe he can bring some value. But what I've learned from the mixed group is, there's a lot of the struggles that these guys are having are very similar across the board. And when you're in a group like this, you can communicate and you can share ideas because you're not really competing with each other. Like an industry where you can't just walk down the street and ask your neighbor, hey, how can I do this better? Because you're competing with that guy. So he's not going to give you, for example, the cake recipe. But what the guy in another town can give you is some, tips and tricks to help you grow your business, or to say, hey, you know what, this didn't work for me, and here's why. So I find it extremely valuable, especially when I hear these guys with their challenges or things that are working good for them. We keep everything pretty much confidential within our group. However, we reach out to each other throughout the year, try to help each other out. But I've gotten a lot of great value out of it, so I'm appreciative to be part of the mixed group.
Well, I can assure you, like I said, I think I have 4 clients of mine that are in that group. And I can tell you that your participation has brought a tremendous value. And that's a very diverse group of people you have there. I mean, when you look at it, you've got large companies to small companies. And when you start looking at it, I think some of the things is one of the smaller companies has one of the highest earning, earning numbers a year of anyone there. It's like I've even heard y'all got a little thing that purple's a new color of green in that mixed group.
That's a true story. Without saying names, that's a true story.
It is. It's unreal. And I've worked with this guy for a couple of years, and like I said, I sent him in there. It's like, you need to get in with other people and bringing him out of the shell and just great ways. And that's why I think these mixed groups are really super to help people build their businesses. Well, let me ask you about this. One of the things that I feel like every business should have is a business plan where you know where you're going. You're not locked in the stone. And just like any trip you take, you may have to take a detour here or a detour there. Economies change, products. But how important do you feel that a business plan is to the business?
Well, that's an easy question, Jerry. Without a business plan, you don't have a business. I mean, it's like getting up every day with no goals. When I get up in the morning, I'm going to work out, I'm going to eat my breakfast, and I'm going to start my day, and I've got an agenda that I'm going to accomplish. And at the end of the day, if I didn't accomplish what I wanted to do, I have to look back at it and say, what didn't I do and why didn't I do it? Okay, well, like you said, I had to make a left turn or a right turn. I couldn't go straight. So is that something that I'm going to put on the list for tomorrow, or is it something that's really now no longer important to me? When you have a business plan, you set your goals and you go after them and attack them. Whether your plan is to make a certain amount of money, or to work a certain amount of hours, or to acquire another company. But without a business plan, you don't have a business. You need to have a business plan.
Yep, and I'm going to go along with that. You mentioned the key thing there, which are goals. I mean, one of the things I try to get people to do is you've got to set what your goals are in the business, right down to what your sales goals are, and then even go further. What is your waste goal? I know I'm involved in manufacturing, or my wife is through her manufacturing company, and manufacturing is a part of what you do, and we have to compute what our waste is. And that's part of our pricing. And the more we can lower waste, the higher our profits are. So, do you consider goals like I'm talking about of utmost importance also?
Oh, absolutely. You have to. And I mean, whether you're in manufacturing and you're talking about material waste, or, production schedules or production lines, or getting new equipment to make the production faster, or cross-training individuals so your labor costs can go down. You have to do all of those things. If you're a chimney sweep or a stove shop or a hearth shop, you have to have a plan with goals, and those goals should be measurable. And it's important. If you don't have a measurable goal, how do you know you've accomplished it? If I woke up in the morning and said I wanted to run 5 miles, and then I didn't know where 5 miles was, I just got up and just went for a run, which, by the way, I'm not a big fan of running because I don't like it, but I still do it. But anyway, I don't just go run around the block and go, yeah, I'm not sure how far I went. Well, did you reach your 5 mile goal? Well, I'm not really sure. Well, where was the 5 mile goal? Well, I'm not really sure. You're running in a circle. It doesn't make any sense. You've got to have measurable goals.
And that's one of the things, like I said, one of the best motivators that's ever lived is Zig Ziglar. And I know, in fact, my wife's going, and that's where she's getting her certification in coaching next week in Dallas, is through Ziglar. But one of the things that Zig told people was he decided to start running. And the first time he had to set his goals. His first goal was to run around the first corner and then make it to the first mailbox. And then he went to the next mailbox. And finally, he was going all around the block. And then it turned into not only blocks, but miles. So you're dead on to it. No matter what you're doing, you've got to have those goals in life, or you don't have a target to aim for.
Right, 100%. And even when you set these goals, you have to make them achievable. They have to be realistic. It doesn't hurt to have one goal that's way out there, crazy goal, and then you're always kind of striving for that goal. But you also want to reap the success. You want to make sure you set goals that are achievable. So when you hit those goals, you always set them just a little bit past what your limits are, and then when you hit those goals, you feel good about it. And then you set another goal, and every time you set a goal, you make it a little bit harder and a little bit harder. And eventually, you look back at that first goal that you set, running to the corner, and you only made it to the mailbox, and now you're running a marathon. You're kind of laughing at that first goal, but that first goal was the first step. You needed to make that first step, just to get off the couch.
Yep, and I'm sure that whenever you got involved with National Chimney, and you saw there, and you set some pretty lofty goals, and it's my confidence because you have realistically moved this company up entirely new levels, and it's just when I see what you're doing from outside, it's just marvelous what I see happens there, Darrin. Again, you have my highest compliments on what I see you do in business. It's truly remarkable.
Well, thank you, Jerry. I appreciate that. And like I said at the beginning, I've got a great team that works with me. We really handpick each individual, and they all bring tremendous value to the organization. So I think that's really important for the success of the company and my success.
Well, I want to mention that because you're dead on the money about the team, Darrin. I don't know if you know this or not, but every once in a while I'm out there in the field, and one of your drivers from National Chimney will make a delivery. And I know one day I was sitting in the office up in New York, it's New York State, and guy walks in, and he has unloaded everything, put it where the customer wanted, did everything, and I got a chance to talk to him. And I found out some things, and one was how dedicated he was to you guys. And he was dedicated to you guys because you guys were dedicated to him. He had went through some things in life, and he told me a little bit about it. And again, it was just truly admirable how you build the team up by working with your people and helping them reach their dreams. So again, it's great examples of how you run a phenomenal business, my friend.
Thank you, Jerry. I appreciate that.
Okay, so let me go to another question. And this is one again. I'm a business coach. One of the things I try to do with every client, and we actually have people that work with them from this, is the importance of a budget. A budget that's going to project both our expenses and our income. And from this, we develop our tracking. But a lot of people say, hey, I got a small business. I don't need a budget. But again, I feel like every company, every business needs a budget to set that map for the future. What's your feeling on budgets?
Well, you need a budget. It doesn't matter how small your company is, and eventually that small company is going to grow. But that's almost like saying you don't need to keep track of your checkbook because you don't make enough money. But obviously you're spending money, and you don't want to be bouncing checks. You got to make more money than you're spending, and the money's got to come in, and you've got to figure out what you're spending that's going to help grow your business. Or some people don't even want to grow their business; they just want to maintain it. But without a budget, you're just kind of in never land, hoping that you're able to pay your bills. And granted, you're not quote unquote working for the man, but really the man ends up becoming the bank account or your vendor who you owe money to, because you're not budgeting your money properly. And next thing you know, you're put in a bad position, and you're having to pay interest on that money. And so then those jobs that you were, that were pretty tight, where you didn't make a lot of money, you've actually now lost money because the money that you're paying for that material or your labor now has interest on it. So it makes no sense for anyone not to have a budget, no matter how small their business is.
Yep, and that's one of the things we try to provide through ours. We've got a couple of independent CFOs that we're getting into more and more companies. And what I tell people is this is bringing in a high caliber person, and you're buying a simple timeshare. Your customers don't need, and my clients don't need, a full-time chief financial officer. Chief financial officers are not accountants. These people don't look at just what happened in the past. They are looking at how to develop the map into the future. So I'm presuming this will be part of what you depend on in your business, is a financial person that's given them the roadmap to move forward.
Well, we don't have what's the word you use for the
CFO.
Yeah, no, the temporary CFO, or a fractional CFO. I believe a lot of guys are trying to hire. We have Marty has got a extremely intelligent background in dollars and money. So within our organization, we have that already in place. But again, we are a much bigger company than a mom and pop chimney sweep. So obviously we need to have that. We wouldn't be able to do it with just a part-time individual. So we have to have, it's all part of our team, from the top up, top down, and bottom up.
Right, and Marty's a very knowledgeable individual on those areas. And like I said, a lot of times people get bogged down and they don't have the expertise. And one of the things I tell them is, it's like, hey, you're going to spend way too much of your time that could be done doing what you do good, and getting the right team together that can do that just like you've got. So let me ask you another question here. If a person were looking to acquire another business, what would you advise them? I mean, that's one of the things that a lot of people are looking at now. In fact, one of my colleagues is Ellen Rohr. She's doing a summit with us in a couple weeks. That's one of the ways she advises to grow. So if people are going to acquire businesses, what do you look for? What do you recommend they look at and for if they're acquiring a business?
Well, the first thing I would ask them, why do they want to acquire another business? What is their reasoning? And with that answer, I would then tell them the business that you're looking at isn't the right fit for your company. Does that company that you're going to purchase or want to purchase have the same core values as your company? Or does it have no core values, but you can easily go in there and bring that into the mix? Is it a new product mix that they're selling? Is it the same product mix, but they're kind of a competitor, so it's going to help you take more market share? So there's several things that you want to look at as an individual looking at another company. And obviously, you've got to look at their books to make sure that, what you're looking at is what you're going to get. You want to make sure there's no, hidden agenda, no smoke and mirrors. There's a lot of small companies out there that, they don't run the business the right way. And it's not because they're purposely not trying to. I think maybe they're not maybe educated on what's the right way to do it, because they started just doing it by themselves, and it grew into a little bit larger of a business, and that's the position that they're in. So when you're looking at these businesses, make sure you do your due diligence. Turn every stone over and look underneath it, and make sure that it's a good fit for your company, because you don't want to bring in a bad culture to an already successful culture that you have.
That's great advice, brother. So let me ask you another, and this is a question you and I and one of our your customer, my client, went over in depth. But I know that you hire managers for businesses, and we talked about that in depth, and you gave me some of your feeling. But right now, there's a lot of people, and there's a dire need for operations managers in the chimney service industry, a dire need. In fact, it's because of aging of people, turning their business into investments, continuing to own it, other things. It's really out there. So from Darin's perspective, how do you select a great manager? What's the skills that Darin looks for if he was going to put a manager over a business?
Well, the first thing I would try to do is hire up within my company. I like to give people the opportunity to grow with our company, whether they're going to relocate to a new facility or they're just going to make their way up the ladder in the facility that they're working at. We have 7 facilities in the U.S. on the chimney and solar side, so there's a lot of opportunity for my guys and gals. But what happens is, they follow my core values, as a trusted employee, and they work their butt off because they see what we're doing on the top. So they, lead by example. So when these guys or gals, as they work their way up, I want to give them the opportunity so they can then take the next step. And sometimes you think, well, they've only have one person working for them or 2 persons working for them. I don't know if they're ready to have 10 or 15 in a department, but if you mentor them properly and they follow what you want them to do, and everyone's going to lead a little differently. Everyone has their own management style, but if it falls within the realm of what you want, that's your number one pick. And then if you have to pick from the outside, there's a bunch of different options. But when I'm looking for a manager, the first place I look at right within our company.
That's great. So that's what I'm talking about. So from there, but you've got to find the right person. You got to realize they're not going to be a duplication of you. What I tell a lot of people is, we may just find somebody that's better than you at this. A lot of people really don't want to be that manager of the business. They'd rather be a salesperson or they'd rather be a technician. And so that's setting it up around all the things that are needed and then getting the right person to manage it from there. So let me go to another question. One of the terms I've used in a lot of my teaching is the term ready, aim, fire. Because what I find a couple different types of people. Some people are what I call a ready, fire, aim. They're going to see something and move on it, but they really don't put a plan together. And then I've got another person, and he is so hung up on aim, he can never fire the gun, and he loses the opportunity. Do you think people can overthink decisions? Like I said, one of my compliments to you is you're a person that can look, measure, make a decision, and move on. Do you agree people can overthink things?
Oh, yeah, absolutely, 100%. I call it the red tape syndrome. Whether it's you're dealing with a corporate American company where, it's got to go through 1 million people to make a decision, or you're talking small ma and pa, and the guy or gal is his own red tape. He's not making a decision, or she doesn't want to make a decision because she's overanalyzing, overthinking it, micromanaging what's going on with the decision. You've got to be confident in what you're doing, and if you're not, then you're going to find yourself in trouble, and the people around you are just going to surpass you. When I make a decision, I'm just not pulling out a gun and pulling the trigger. I've calculated it in my head. But, as you mentioned at the beginning, I was in the military for 8 years and was a special operations unit, and then I went into the State Department and did a contract work overseas for about 3 years. And, I made a decision that it went from me to Washington. So I'm responsible for what my decisions that I'm going to make, and I've got to make them faster than anyone else because I don't want to lose the opportunity. If we're going to invest in the company and create new products or do an acquisition, I can sit on an acquisition for a year or 2 years and then finally pull the trigger, and guess what? That acquisition's not there anymore. It's not going to be there because someone else already did it. Or if we're going to create a new product and we're going to round table it or put it in the parking lot for a year and then think about, do we really want to do this new item? oh, we really should do this new item. And then all of a sudden we do it. You go to a trade show and 5 other companies already have it. Then you're just the guy that, you missed the boat.
Yep, you're just another one of the followers out there trying to duplicate. You're not the guy out front. It's like, I guess it's a good thing Henry Ford wasn't that kind of guy in his day, or we would have never moved forward with a lot of things. So I got a really big question for you. And this question is based on, you've been a manufacturer, you're a distributor, you're also in a mixed group. You've seen things about this industry. In my way of looking at things, from all the research I've done, I think that the potential for the chimney service industry is beyond what most people can comprehend. I based my thinking on, I honestly feel that we have touched less than 3% of the American consumers today. And I think this is dropping because of the population growth, people moving in, whatever. So tell me, from Darin's outlook, from your view, what do you feel the potential is for a service company in the chimney industry in the year 2015 and beyond?
Well, that's a simple answer, Jerry. It's an untapped industry, in my opinion. It's an absolutely untapped industry. I go to a lot of meetings, and I deal with other business owners, and whether they're chimney sweeps or they're manufacturers, and they tell me, oh, I was down a little bit. This year's probably going to be a down year. I think the industry's, it's going away. Well, that's pretty interesting because, you know what, since I took over National Chimney, we've been up every year. And we're always out there developing new products or trying to acquire new companies. So if you have the mentality that it's a dying industry, well, you know what? Probably because you don't have the drive to move forward. Because I can tell you, you threw a number of 3% out. I don't have any information on that, but I can tell you for sure, without a doubt, it's an untapped industry. There's so much potential out there that if you go out there and you have the drive and the dedication to go after it, you're gonna be making some money. It's gonna be fruitful.
It is, and that's the potential. I always tell people, it's like competition. I tell people, the only competition you have in this industry, if you look in the mirror, you'll see them. There they are. They're looking back at you every morning. And you've got to get outside the box. You've got to rethink it. When I look at the guys, the Lindemans, I look at the Stoners, I look at all the people around the country, the Dave Lambs, people that are really, truly showing this tremendous growth. They are doing things. They're doing them every day, and that's what we got to get people into. So, I think we both share the same thought. We're in an industry that has a potential that is enormous. We've just got to get the word out to everyone else, and that's what we're all working together. Well, let me ask you, is there anything else that you've come up with in this that you would like to tell to the people that's watching us?
Well, first of all, thanks, Jerry, for having me today. And, I think that the message to tell everyone who's watching this is, do what's right for your business. And, if you sit back and you relax, the competition's going to pass you. Don't make excuses why you can't do something. There's tons of people you can reach out to. There's a lot of coaches out there, obviously you being one of them, Jerry. There's a lot of opportunity. There's a lot of smart guys in our industry. And, look outside the industry, too. You don't have to. My company has core values. Honor is the acronym we use. Honesty and integrity, operating at the highest level at all times. Never say never. Originality, thinking outside of the box. Respect the customer, the company, and yourself. But the big one in there I just wanted to throw out was thinking outside the box. You've got to always be thinking outside the box. If you want to grow your company, go out and hustle, work hard. Nothing's easy out there. There's no quick diet plan. If you're 100 pounds overweight, and you say, oh, this pill that I'm taking is not working as fast as it should. Well, you know what? It's because you're not exercising. You're not eating right. It's simple things like that. I think if everyone just has the forward-thinking mentality, you'll pass the guy or gal next to you. It's a fact.
That's it. It's like when I started what I'm doing now in 2010, I had people tell me then, well, Jerry, that's a really great idea you got, but I don't think it'll ever sell. Well, it's done okay. We're adding new coaches this year to our team. And that's what you got to do. You got to put your plan forth. You got to have a dream. You got to go after that dream. Well, Darin, I want to really thank you for your time. I know you're a busy guy. I know you got a lot going on. We're doing this middle of the week, one morning when the time worked out for Darin to meet his schedule. But the things you have shared, hopefully it's going to make a difference to somebody, Darin, and that's what it's all about. You know, what you're talking about, coming outside the box, that's what we do. I mean, you know, to put in a little plug, we're doing our CBC Success Summit in about 5 weeks in Indianapolis. And it's, you know, it's all about how to become a leader, how to be the manager, how to market, how to connect with your customers. So, you know, for me, I want to thank you for your time today, spending with us. Again, this is Darin, National Chimney. If you ever see him, it's in a trade show. Hey, he'll have the time for you to talk to him. And it's a company that really, and an individual that I greatly admire. So, Darin, I thank you so much for spending this time with me today. It's been truly an honor, a pleasure, and an extreme value to me.
Well, thank you, Jerry, very much. I appreciate it, and I appreciate what you're trying to do in this industry. Thank you very much.
Thank you.